Oh, hello there. Man, we're already live. I'm sorry, I didn't see that. How you do? Please make yourself comfortable and, well, I guess, welcome to this month Past Your Bedtime's events live stream. This is our second official live stream and we're very excited to have you here with us again. My name is Cedric and this month I will be your host. Which means today I'm gonna be the one that's gonna bore you to death. But don't worry, we have 3 amazing stories about heroines to make it up to you. They're very touching and really up to date with that tiny bit of fantastic that gonna make them all more enjoyable. We have, of course, incredible narrators to keep you entertained, followed by beautiful artworks. So once more, thank you very much for joining us, and I'm really looking forward to hear with you the stories tonight. Before I move on, I would like to mention that this month we decided to support In Aid of the Survivor Trust. They are a non-profit organization, the largest umbrella agency for specialists of rape and sexual abuse services in the UK. For the last 15 years, their services worked with victims and survivors of all ages, all genders, and all forms of sexual violence, sexual abuse, and sexual exploitation. Their services include support for partners and family members. This is a topic that is very dear to all of us at Past Your Bedtime's events. And as well, they open a really important dialogue that perhaps we don't have enough in today's society. Talking, even though very difficult, is a very important part of the healing process. And this is why In Aid of the Survivor Trust is such an important organization. Especially now, with COVID-19, when many people have found themselves isolated and have to deal by themselves with these terrible events. Their support line and their online services have been there to help others as much as they can. So please, if you will, consider donating to them. You'll find the link in the description below, and let's help them with their mission, their incredibly important mission. Now, without any further ado, let's start with our first story, Surgery and Cinderella, by Ollie Morris. It is read by Anna Martin and illustrated by Bridget Lees. Please, take it away.
Surgery and Cinderella. The yell of code blue rang through the corridors of the hospital. All ears pricked up, all eyes widened. Someone was dying. Code blue! Nurse Waters barked again over her shoulder whilst one of her nurses slammed a hand on the button by the writhing patient's bed. I need a crash cart now, and we need to prep him for surgery. Nurse Waters then turned back to the man, now limp and unresponsive, and started performing CPR. A woman had started wailing in despair. Children were being hurried away by a secretary, but they all looked back, faces stiff with confused terror as they saw their dad's chest being pushed to no avail. He's not responding. Many of the nurses were new to the job, so they too were starting to look terrified, but Nurse Waters shot them death stares. If this is too much for you, then leave. And while you're at it, one of you go and get Dr. Nadir and tell her we need her in Theatre 4 in 10 minutes. A flurry of movement. Yells for the corridor to be cleared, an intern nurse running with an IV. The patient's wife was begging for her husband to be saved. But no one could promise anything. We'll do the best that we can, was all that was said, and she was left to sob into her hands. They raced to the heart of the hospital and into darkness. The theatre was already set up for them, the instruments and machinery sparkling and sharp, and the burning scent of disinfectant. Dr. Nadir, Nurse Water calls. We're ready for you. Danielle Nadir shows no signs of panic. She thanks the nurses and quickly checks that everything is in order. As he was being prepped, Danielle walked over, and stands looking down on the man dying in front of her. He was wearing a mask, already being drugged with anaesthetic, his returning heart rate steady. Danielle knew his name. Trevor Kinos, 45, lived in London his entire life, had 3 children and worked at a local toy shop. He wasn't just a body to Danielle. He was a man whose life she needed to save. "I'm not going to let you down, Mr. Kinos," Danielle whispered to him. All through medical school and her placements, Danielle was told to be a successful surgeon, she had to switch off her emotions. It was simply a body and failing organs. Danielle never believed this. She never let her emotions rule her, but they helped her do the best she could, thinking not only of the body, but of the life. Maybe it was this that had made her one of the best cardiothoracic surgeons in London, or perhaps it was because Danielle put very little ahead of her work. Either way, as she readied her hand to make the first incision, she felt no sign of panic. She had seen and saved far worse, and she knew what she would be losing if she didn't succeed. Time seemed to slip away like smoke, and as the night darkened and then started to brighten, Danielle continued to keep her calm composure. She did not flinch when there were complications with an artery, nor when his BP level dropped dangerously low. At the 5th hour, Mr. Kinos' heart suddenly stuttered, and there was a horrible wail of machinery as it showed that he was a brink away from death. Danielle heard one of the junior nurses choke back a sob, but she did not allow herself to pause. Nurse Waters moved in to intervene, but Danielle held her off. "Nadir," Nurse Waters started. "Do not let that artery collapse, Waters." Danielle was already cupping Mr. Kinos' heart, gently massaging it whilst looking at the flashing screen. The numbers spiked, and then died. "Ready a defibrillator, but do not use it until I say so. I need more suction." The team obliged while Danielle continued to massage the heart. It was warm in her hand, and she had half an inclination to drop it and rub her hands on their scrubs, but she kept going, letting the nurses clean and prep and steady while she kept massaging the warming heart. A nurse said, "Defibrillator's ready." Waters clicked for it to be moved nearer, scowling pointedly. "Dr. Nadir, not yet. Heart massage shouldn't be going on for this long. If you shock him with electricity now, it'll kill him." "But he's dying now." "I'm aware of that, Nurse Waters." Danielle's voice was as cold as steel. "But as I am the only person in the room right now who can make sure this man returns alive to his children, I'm telling you, do not use the defibrillator." "Come on, Trevor. Work with me." There was a jump, a small shudder, and then a beat, and then one more. Then a soft, continued rhythm, and his BP levels started to increase. Trevor was alive. There was a collective sigh of relief. Danielle gently released the patient's heart and took a moment to stand back and breathe. Her hand, once stiff with tension, was shaking slightly. Lying there, Trevor Kinos looked like he could have been asleep if his chest currently wasn't open. He looked peaceful. His eyelashes fluttered. "You're amazing, Dr. Nadir," one of the junior nurses said in wonder. Danielle allowed a small smile from behind her mask. "We still have to save him yet. I just made sure that we had a little more time. Now let's get on with it. I have an unmissable appointment at 9:30. And when the prince put on the shoe and it fit perfectly, he knew he had found his Cinderella. Barnaby glowed with pride as he clumsily slipped the plastic shoe on the girl's foot. The hall broke out into wild applause. Barnaby, his cardboard crown slipping down his head, waved wildly when he saw Danielle cheering for him. "Focus," Danielle mouthed to her son, laughing. Barnaby's older sister, Elizabeth, the narrator for the performance, waited patiently for the applause to die down and continued to read in a loud, clear voice. "Cinderella and Prince Charming went to go live in the palace and got married. Cinderella then set up her own fashion company and paid the woodland creatures fair wages and put on the best fashion walks in the kingdom." Everyone laughed. The prince loved her, and they both lived happily ever after. The end. This time, the applause rang through the hall until Danielle's ears rang, but she whooped in delight, seeing her 2 children and their classmates shuffle into a long line and haphazardly bow. The headmistress thanked all the parents and families for coming, and then the assembly was over. Barnaby bounded down the stairs and straight through the crowd into Danielle's open arms. I am so... She kissed him on the forehead. Proud of you, Barnaby. You did so well. Did you see my sword? The small boy asked excitedly. I sure did. You looked so cool. And you... Elizabeth smiled sheepishly as her mum showered her with kisses and affection. You did amazing. Thanks, Mum. Miss Bloom called the bit we added in the end inspiring. It all came from you. Danielle momentarily had to blink back tears of pride as she looked at her 2 children. She had driven straight from the hospital and her eyes were itching with exhaustion, but seeing their faces light up when she had sat in the audience had made everything worth it. I brought you both a little well-done treat. Danielle rummaged in her bag and then pulled out a small paper bag. Inside were 2 chocolate chip pancakes from the bakery next to the hospital, still slightly warm and oozing melted chocolate drips. Barnaby clapped his hands, and Elizabeth held hers like it was the most precious book she'd ever seen. Thank you, Mum, she said. Thank you, thank you, thank you, Barnaby mumbled through a mouthful of pancake. Holding one hand each, they bombarded their mum about work, listening with rapt amazement as Danielle explained how she had saved Trevor Keynos from heart failure. Elizabeth nodded when Danielle told how when she had left, Trevor had already been united with his family. You're basically a superhero, Mum. I just work hard, darling. Were you ever scared? Danielle nodded. But I like it when I'm a little bit scared. It means whatever I'm doing means something, so I make sure to do my best. I was scared of doing my reading today, and you did an amazing job. Helped Barnaby and the rest of the kids do the show, and you're now eating a chocolate chip pancake. And you saved a life today. There was so much pride in Elizabeth's voice. It caused another wave of tears for Danielle to blink away. Mum, come look at my classroom! Barnaby was tugging Danielle's arm towards an open door filled with people. And mine, Elizabeth said. Barnaby's first, then Elizabeth's. And Barnaby, don't you dare wipe your hands on the door. They're covered. Let's go! The small boy wriggled in his mother's grip as she fished out a tissue from her sleeve and tried to wipe away the chocolate stains. It'll only be a minute. Stop squirming. And you've got to rub your mouth too. But Barnaby was able to wriggle away and dart into the busy classroom. Elizabeth giggled, rolling her eyes and grabbing a fresh tissue from her bag. Danielle followed her son, praying that she didn't find any chocolate on his clothes so she wouldn't have to do the washing when she got home.
Thank you very much, Anna. That was fantastic. And I have to say, this story was such a beautiful reminder that not all heroes wear capes. Nowadays, with the big blockbuster movies about superheroes or ancient stories about ancient heroes, it is very easy to forget that sometimes the most ordinary looking people are the ones that make it their personal life goal to help others, going as far as saving other people's life. As we saw in the story, we have example of the doctor, but also of nurses and volunteers, social workers, the Red Cross, the list goes on. Which leads me to the question, did you had any personal childhood heroes growing up? For me, I might have been the weird kid, but for me, they were teachers. Perhaps I'm a bit biased because both my parents are high school teachers. However, I had this incredible elementary Italian teacher that really inspired me at treating everyone in the same way, giving everyone the same opportunities. She always saw us everyone as equal, no matter where we came from, or what was our background. We all had potential in our eyes, potential that could be awakened, and that was her personal goal. She's also the person that introduced me to English. So she's literally the person that shaped me on the person that I am nowadays. And the only thing I can say now is to thank her for making me who I am today. So what about you? Did you have any personal superhero growing up? So please, let us know in the comments. Now, let's move to our second story of the night. Keeping up with the theme of Not All Heroes Wear Capes, Mother's Day by Rhodes, read by Helena Beauchamp and illustrated by Sasha Wood.
Okay, so this is Mother's Day by Ellie Rhodes. Laura drives down the familiar road and watches the sky. A pale blue skims the horizon, fading to a bright orange, then indigo, and finally inky blue as it rises to the stars. Laura chuckles under her breath. She's been awake since 6 in the morning, and she hasn't noticed the sky all day. The tarmac is a dark patchwork quilt, and the streets are barren. She misses seeing the young lads playing football, Mrs. Harrison yelling at them when they lose the ball in their gnome-infested garden, and even the young men stalking the streets later in the evening with their hoods low over their faces and their shoulders bumping into each other, laughing and jeering. She eases onto the brake, turns the wheel, and pulls into the drive. The windows of the house mirror the sky, looking almost as if there are lights on inside, as if someone is still in there. Laura parks the car and gets out, grabbing her handbag before looking up. The wind is cooler now and whips at her scrubs. Goosebumps raise up on her arms, and she fumbles inside her bag for the house key. When Laura enters, the wind slams the door shut behind her. She finally collapses onto her knees, the bag dropping beside her as she curls up tightly into a ball and screams into her hands. Laura stays there for a few minutes, enjoying the very stillness of her body. She never realized how immovable her limbs could be, or how sturdy her core was. Laura felt as if she had just looked into the eyes of Medusa, and you know what? She wasn't mad about it. All those victims in Medusa's lair with their shocked, even mortified faces, and there Laura would be, composed, content, grateful even, for the opportunity of eternal stillness. Laura's stomach whines and twists. Although her legs are weak, she manages to stumble upright and plod to the kitchen. On the way, she kicks her stained Nike trainers off and leaves them wherever they land. One hits the back of the sofa, and the other rolls into a Barbie mansion. The collision causes a little plastic ironing board and kettle to fall out. Laura digs through the freezer, finds a packaged lasagna, and throws it into the microwave, punching in random numbers in hopes that it'll cook properly. A few minutes later, and Laura burns her fingers trying to open the plastic seal. She curses under her breath. Her phone starts ringing in her handbag, still left by the front door. Laura looks at the clock on the oven and swears again. She completely forgot the call was happening. The lasagna drops onto the counter. Laura runs to her phone and races back to the living room, collapsing onto the sofa. She clicks the green phone button. Laura's parents appear on the screen smiling. Her mum has put on makeup even though they aren't allowed outside. Laura loves that she has done that just for her. Her dad is wearing his Spurs t-shirt and is holding a mug of tea. They're both sitting on the blue leather sofa. Laura can spot abandoned toys and colouring pencils over their shoulders. Laura notices a sinister figure in the bottom corner of her screen. Her dark chocolate hair is flat and greying near the roots. Her skin looks pasty and is freckled with large red spots, and her eyes look bruised. Laura was always so careful about how she looked before leaving the house, but after the pandemic hit, mascara and foundation were a distant memory. "Hello, Pickle," Laura's dad calls, waving. "Hi, Mum. Hi, Dad," Laura responds. Laura asks after the children. Her mum says they're all good, but they miss their mummy a lot. Laura's throat threatens to close. Her parents tell her that Jason and Penny attempted baking cupcakes today. The result was some flat, lopsided burnt things, flour handprints all over the house, and egg on the kitchen tiles. Laura's mum sends her a picture over WhatsApp. The cakes do in fact look disgusting, but the proud grins on her children's faces while lifting their creations up to the camera makes Laura want to eat every last one of them. "So, anyway, lovely, how are you? Was work okay?" her mum asks. Laura opens her mouth, but words refuse to leave. Her eyes prickle, and her cheeks grow hot and damp. Her parents' faces fall as they watch their daughter cry in front of them. "What's the matter, dear?" her mum asks. "It feels like I haven't seen daylight in 2 weeks now," Laura begins, wiping the tears away. Her voice warbles. "I go to work at dawn, run around the hospital, come home at night and go back again. The overtime is killing me. I only get about 5 hours sleep per night. At work I wash my hands so often that they bleed. Moisturiser doesn't work, it only makes the stinging worse. My body aches with the stress. I cramp every night and wake up sore every morning, only to race around each ward all over again." Laura hides her face in her hands, sobbing into her palms. Her body shakes all over and her scrubs stick to her sweaty skin. "Oh, baby," Laura's mum says. "That's not even the worst part," Laura continues. "We don't have the equipment, Mum. I had to sit with this elderly lady today for 3 hours waiting for a ventilator. The doctor came in and said they didn't have any, and I just have to make do with what I had. I just had to sit with her and watch her gasping stop and her eyes glaze over, and her husband of 50 years didn't even get to see his wife as she died. The most heart-wrenching part of watching someone die is not that they're leaving, is that you could have done something if things were different." "Honey," Laura says, "you can't control these things. You're not responsible." Laura inhales shakily and lets the air escape slowly. "I always had you guys to come home to. That's the difference. You could hold me, make me a cup of tea, and we'd all watch Strictly or EastEnders to take my mind off things. But now, I come home to a haunted house, too exhausted to watch the telly and too alone for a hug. I haven't showered in days. My last meal was 24 hours ago, 4 pots of jelly before crashing on the sofa. I'm not living. I'm just a hand to hold on the deathbed and nothing more." Laura watches her mum grip her dad's hand. She quickly wipes her tears, hoping Laura won't see, but she does. Laura's stomach twists and she thinks she might throw up. Laura never wanted to make her parents sad, but who could she talk to? Her friends were too busy with their families. Dave left when Penny was born. Her parents were her backbone. "Pickle," Laura's dad begins. "We're always a phone call away. I know we're just 2 old people with bad cholesterol, but we're your old people. Talk to us. We're still your parents. We couldn't be prouder of you. You're doing what you can for people, and that's what matters. Jason and Penny miss their mummy, but they also know that what you're doing is vital. They've been calling you Wonder Woman all week. Be strong, love. The country is rooting for you." Laura smiles and tells her parents she loves them and that she can't wait to speak to the children tomorrow. The call ends and Laura falls back against the stripy cushions. Tomorrow is Mother's Day and her first day off work in a fortnight. Laura yawns, rubbing her eyes with the backs of her hands, and pushes herself off the sofa with a groan. She plods up the stairs and tears off her scrubs as she reaches her room. She leaves them on the floor and collapses onto her bed, abandoning reality as soon as her head hits the pillow. Sunlight bursts through the parted curtains and washes over Laura's face. She blinks against the supernatural glow and smiles to herself. Sunlight. She finally gets to see the golden beams wrap around her body again. Laura stumbles out of bed. Her limbs are stiff, but she manages to hobble to the bathroom, where she steps into the shower and turns the dial to full blast. The water is Antarctic, and she squeals. As it warms, Laura's muscles ease. She even starts singing again, something she hasn't done since putting the kids to bed. At the dinner table, wrapped in a dressing gown and a towel turban, Laura spoons Frosties into her mouth and slurps on a mug of black coffee. Her thumb flies across the phone screen in exploration of what her friends have been up to while she was swallowed up by the hospital. There's a rapping at the door. Laura puts her phone down and wanders over, guessing the postman has brought whatever creations her children have made with crayons and coloured paper. The door opens and sunlight spills across the floor. Clapping echoes all the way down the street. When Laura's eyes adjust to the brilliance of day, she sees baskets and bags full of wrapped presents lining her drive. She starts to cry. Everyone on the street is out on their doorsteps, clapping and cheering. Some hold banners wishing her a happy Mother's Day and thanking her for her service. There are flowers and chocolates, soaps and blankets. And Laura knows she's not alone anymore.
Thank you, Helena, for such an amazing read-through. And I really would like to take time to thank Ollie for writing not only a real touching story, but also such a real and contemporary one. The COVID-19 pandemic is still going on. It's incredible the work that nurses and doctors, not only in the UK, but all over the world, have been putting to save our lives. They've been the first line of defense against this new virus since day one. And I think the least we can do is really to thank them for their hard work. Talking about COVID-19, I would like to share with you a little message from In Aid of the Survivor Trust. They know that the COVID-19 pandemic is affecting our lives in a lot of different ways, and it's normal for it to have an impact on our mental health, especially for those who have experienced trauma and are living with the impact from rape and sexual violence. The support line is now open 7 days a week and provides confidential advice to all survivors of rape or sexual abuse. Their supporters and professionals. They also know that talking, being listened to and believed can help. They are here to talk, they are here to listen, and they are here to believe. So please contact them if you need anything. Now, we are halfway there. We're actually missing only one story for tonight, which is Returning of the Sword, a more fantastical story, written by Rebecca Kinder, and it's read by our new narrator, Sam Green. It's illustrated by Emma Adams. So please, let's enjoy this last story for tonight.
Return of the Sword, written by Rebecca Kinder. A pair of young boys stand peering over a map. They're trying to figure out which direction to go in. So they look up a few times, they look at each other. They point to various different locations on the map to try and place where they're currently stood. Which way do you think we should go? I don't know. Maybe we should just pick one. They fold away the map and they start to walk. Takes them a second to realise they've picked different directions to each other. The boys look at each other and they laugh. Okay, so we need to pick a direction together, not separately. We can't go getting lost now, can we, little brother? So don't start with that little brother stuff. Just because we're born 10 minutes apart, we're the same fucking age. So they start heading south. They've not gone far when they hear something hit a tree right in front of them. It sounds a bit strange. They look at each other, but they keep on walking. It keeps happening. So they decide to look back. They see a man dressed in dark colours. His face is covered, firing arrows at them. Quickly, or get down! One of the boys called to the other. Yeah, you may want to listen to your mate there, said a female voice. Get down, for fuck's sake! Before the boys can jump for cover, the body of the man that was shooting them just stopped and dropped to the floor. One moment he had been firing in quick succession, and the next he just looked down at the red mark that was starting to spread across his chest. He went to turn around, but it was too late, as a figure behind him was already pulling out their sword. It was stained red. Standing now where the man stood, there's a woman, slightly downstream from the tired and weary boys who have been travelling for many days. She stands taller and overlooks the two travellers. Her lips turn to a little smirk. Her sword is stained red in blood and is raised high above her head. And she returns the dagger right into the holder on her thigh. A bow and arrow strapped across the back, and the hood of her long black cape is covering her face so that all that can be seen of her bright red hair is a set of lightly styled braids that rest across her shoulders. There on the floor lay the body of the man that had been shooting at them. The woman kicks the man just to make sure that he's dead. The woman puts the rest of her weapons away and then turns to the man that was attacking the boys. Not taking any chances, she takes some rope that was wrapped around her waist and ties it around the man's wrists, securing him into place. She takes her time to empty his packs for anything useful. She comes across new arrows for a bow. She puts them straight into her quiver. And she finds a collection of 3 different daggers. She finds some water canteens and bottles as well. Now, she returns to check on the boys. They're standing still in place. She jumps down the rest of the hill with the items in her hands and joins the boys. They both take several steps away at the same time, scared that she's going to attack them. She smirks when she sees this. Don't worry, I'm not going to attack you 2 boys. Just thought you could use some help. So you 2 are not the ones I found on the floor there. But there's no need for you to thank me, saving your asses or anything. Here. She smirks as she passes over a bottle of water to each of the boys and says, Please, drink this. It looks like you need it more than I do. I mean, unless you want to collapse from exhaustion and dehydration now. Do you boys have any weapons or even any supplies? A pair of boys shake their heads at the same time as they take the bottle and they gulp down the water as fast as they can. Unable to remember the last time they had a drink, and their stomachs, they start to rumble as it all goes down. Slowly, take your time. Don't drink it all, as you don't want to be sick to keep hold of the bottle for later. Trust me. Also a warning, I do not handle sick well. She drops the weapons to the floor and she starts to sort them out. Checking their condition, she throws the daggers right at the boys' feet. She shows them how to use rags to tie them to their body. Now, boys, I have a few questions that I need to ask the pair of you. Where are you heading? Have you ever used any weapons to fight? Now, thanks for the help in the water, but just to clarify, we're not boys. We are not kids. Well, sorry. You 2 not boys have any names then? I'm Leo. I'm Tommy. I'm going to take a wild guess in the dark here and guess that the pair of you 2 are brothers. Twins. The 2 of them say at the exact same time. I knew it. Something gave it away. Maybe it was the fact that you basically have the exact same face. So, boys, where are you heading? You never said. We don't know. We got lost. We don't know what to do.
Thank you very much, Sam. That was an incredible first narration. And once more, welcome to the team. We're very happy to have you with us. I don't know about you, but I really love stories with sibling dynamics. Well, maybe I'm a bit biased since, I have an older brother. But there is something that really clicks when you have interaction between brothers or sisters or brother and sisters, especially if they're twins. There is that complicity, but also a tiny bit of struggle, competition that makes it that incredible interaction and interesting dynamics. Plus, I really believe Rebecca nailed that fantasy setting to make the story all the more interesting. Do you have any older brothers or younger sisters or any kind of siblings? Please let us know. But with that, I'm afraid this was the last story for tonight. Well, what to say? Time to say goodbye. I'm sorry, I'm terrible at singing. I hope you did get that Italian English music reference. Anyway, I really hope you enjoyed today's live stream, and for me, it was a pleasure to be your host. Next month, I will be back and narrating, and look forward for the spooky October. For next month, we'll be dropping stories weekly, so look forward for that. If you like to narrate with us as a volunteer, please don't be afraid to contact us. Follow us on our social medias, on our Facebook and Instagram page, and please stay in touch. I would like to remind you once more about the support line from In Aid of Survivor Trust. If for any reason you feel like you need someone to talk to, please contact them. They're here to listen to you. And once again, consider donating to them if you can. I do really believe their cause is a very good one and a very noble one. So with this, as we say where I'm from, arrivederci. We'll see again each other next month. Thank you very much for joining us, and have a good evening.